All right, Krishna, everyone. This is acyuta-bhava from Nightlight Astrology, and today I'm taking a question that I got from one of you on my Bhakti channel, and I hope that this both the question and the response are helpful for you. So this was a really good one. Here are some questions for you and for your videos. These two words, awakening and enlightenment, have plagued me forever, it seems. I'm not a stupid person, at least I'd like to think I'm not, yet these two words have me at a loss. And I have asked people this, but what do they mean? What do they mean? Even in some of your videos, you have said when people are awakened, but what does that mean? Or I hear enlightened people. What does that mean? I would devour articles proclaiming the explanation only to be left still scratching my head, or maybe I'm just too dense and just cannot grasp the meanings of those two words in regards to spirituality and spiritual growth. And it's come to the point when I hear them, it seems to be a joke on gullible people. Help. Well, I don't understand them either. So you're not alone. In the sense that I'm not an awakened person. I'm not enlightened. Um, so part of just an initial thing that has to be said, it's not a cop out, I promise. I will try to answer the question somewhat, but first thing to remember is that if we knew what it meant, we wouldn't be, we wouldn't be in need of being awakened or enlightened. So there's some sense in which we can't know exactly what it means. We can't circumscribe what it means with our heads intellectually. So that's an initial thing, just to let you know that that's pretty normal to feel overwhelmed by these ideas. Um, I think the easiest way of explaining what's meant by awakening or enlightenment is to start by remembering the simple truth that in Bhakti Yoga, I'm not my body. So I'm a spirit soul and I'm inhabiting a body. Um, we are uh, eternal beings, eternal spiritual beings. We have no beginning and we have no end. So from within this body, I really think that I had a beginning and it was when I was born. And I think that I have an end and it's when I'm going to die. And I live that way as though that's who I am every single day. So, in one very simple sense, awakening or enlightenment means to gradually come into the knowledge of being a soul, come into awareness of ourselves as spiritual beings and not merely the body and temporary ego and mind that I'm inhabiting right now. And so, as that becomes more felt, as we come to dwell in that awareness of ourselves as spiritual beings, in a sense, it's enlightening because things can happen to me in this world, all sorts of things that are up and down and good and bad, and I have those experiences, and they're valid, they're real. But they're not all that's real. It's not the only reality. There's also a greater truth, a greater reality, which is that I was never born. Actually, I'm a spirit soul and I'll never die. So, what a useful thing that is. What an enlightening reality that is to um, inhabit. And we can't just inhabit that uh, intellectually. We have to inhabit that through, our experiences can teach us that. Life and loss and impermanence naturally can teach us that. That's why the Buddha began his journey after leaving the palace as a wealthy young kind of prince. He leaves the palace and he sees death and he sees poverty, he sees suffering. And naturally, he starts questioning, he starts recognizing, well, what is this? Why am I here? What's real? What endures? Uh, so experience can teach us, but we also have to live a lifestyle that proactively helps us to inhabit our spirit soul rather than merely being identified with our thoughts, feelings, and all the fleeting circumstances of our world, our life, our body, our hormones, which again is real, but it's not the only reality. So we need practices, generally speaking, practices of faith, practices of spirit, practices in bhakti to awaken our divine nature. And in bhakti, it's also not the goal to simply wake up to the fact that we're God, because in bhakti, we're not God. We're little tiny sparks of God. And our awakening is conceptualized as the like a awakening of like a relationship or like a friendship. So it's kind of like saying, hey, not only am I not just this body, and not only am I a spirit soul, but my spirit soul is like a little particle of sunbeam in relation to the divine whole, the sun, which we call Krishna. But the awakening of our spirit soul is then something that is done by also awakening our relationship to our source. So as we awaken that, it naturally makes us happy. It naturally, because we realize, oh, this is who I am. I'm a divine being as a part of the divine whole, and I have this sacred, beautiful, intimate relationship, not only with God, but with all things. And as we come to inhabit that, even just little millimeter by little millimeter, as that changes our consciousness, some of the words that we use to describe that in bhakti are, we get a little bit more awake. Awake meaning, like we were asleep, we didn't really know, what was going on, just a metaphor, right? Enlightenment is just coming into a sense of the real truth, like light and clarity, truth and awareness. These aren't ultimate goals. It's not like, oh, once you get to level 10, da da da. It's also the description of what it means to be in relationship with anyone and everything that is a part of the divine whole as well as God itself. It's enlightening, it's awakening. It's so many other things too, though. And not just once and for all, but in an ongoing manner. Imagine that you had an infinite amount of time to hang out with an infinitely cool best friend. You wouldn't just say, well, I've reached it, I've concluded it, there I'm enlightened, right? You'd say, wow, I've come to realize that uh, I have an endless amount of time, I'm an endless being, and I'm hanging out with another endless being, and I get to do amazing things. So it's joyful, it's blissful, it's so much more than just some thing that we achieve. It's a relationship. Relationships, I'm not sure how much a relationship likes to be thought of in terms of ultimate goals. I know that if I walk into the room and my wife starts handing me a list of to-dos before she's giving me a hug, I get a little offended. Or, same thing if in the opposite direction. If I'm not caring and tending for the love between my wife and I, she gets offended. My guru's wife, I guess, once said, he jokes about this in his talk sometimes, I'm I'm low maintenance, not no maintenance. But so I don't think like we should think of God as like as high maintenance, uh, but tending to a relationship in you're reciprocating back and forth in a divine relationship. That's an infinite, eternal experience that gets to keep going. So it's not something we reach and then once we're there, we've achieved it. Okay, good, check. I meditated my way to Olympic gold, you know. But this is also what it means to become awake, to be awakened or to be enlightened to the fact that, hey, I'm a divine being and I get to have a ongoing eternal relationship with my divine source. Wow, how awakening is that? How refreshing is that? So many other adjectives we could use. So those adjectives get used and sometimes they become static in our minds when they're really meant to be adjectives that help us to understand an ongoing experience, which we have to awaken to because we so often forget, thinking I'm just my body, I'm just this ego, I'm just this temporary life path in this particular dimension of reality that I'm in. I hope that this helps. A really great question. I know that those words can be confounding as well. So, no worries, you're not alone. All right, well, hopefully, again, all of you enjoyed this. If you have questions for me at any point, email them to me at info@nightlightastrology.com. And I look forward to more bhakti content soon. Hare Krishna, everyone.